Might help if my mic was unmuted. All right, so for those who don't know me, I'm Daniel Dewey. I'm I'm just live streaming my project, Extreme Programming Style. Feel free to comment, questions, whatever. Um, and then let's go ahead and get these going. So the first thing, so pretty much what I'm working on now is I'm developing a OpenStack Ansible module specifically for the Keystone component. And then eventually what I'll take all this OpenStack Ansible modules, stand up an actual OpenStack down in my, I've got 4 nodes in the basement, and just build from there. We won't get that to there tonight, but well, let's just get going. All right, so let's see. The first thing I'm doing is OpenStack requires, don't have any of my instructions up. Excuse me. OpenStack requires that the network manager is disabled. I wrote a module specifically for that. I don't want the Keystone module itself to be handling. Where's my Firefox? I do not want Keystone handling the network itself. It's got better things to do. Let's see. OpenStack. Let's just do docs. Going for Queens, the Queens release, installation guides, and I'm just working through this guy here. So any networking type setup, as far as the module is concerned, I'm having something else handle that. That's the goal. There's the networking. NTP will be handled via FreeIPA. So I'm going to have a node dedicated for just FreeIPA, effectively Active Directory for Linux, and I still got to write some stuff up for it, but it will handle NTP for the entire cluster. Let's see. Oh, that's right. That's the other thing, is there's some prerequisite OpenStack stuff that should not be handled by the module either. So one thing that I am doing is, as I'm writing these Ansible modules, I am using what's called the molecule framework. Effectively, it's a testbed framework, leveraging what's it called again? Test infra, which is based off of PyTest. So I go and write up test and test infra, and it's going to check the final state of things, and if I miss something, it'll catch it. But ideally, it should not be missing anything. The only time it should be missing is when I'm trying to also follow test-driven development, so I write the test first, then I go and write up the Ansible code to get it passing again. Show you what that looks like. Should have, so that's the tasks. Oop, I don't want to move. Molecule tests. Oh, there you go. Let's put these side by side. So here's what a simple test looks like. A lot of this is basic. Pretty much every single the beginning of every single file is going to start with this starter section, or every single test file. I'm doing this. Why was I setting that? I don't think I need that. Get that out for now. I think that's a remnant. And then finally here we have test to make sure that the network manager is running and or is not running, keyword right there, and is not enabled. And as things are now, this should work. And my linter's complaining because it's a special way that I handle this. Stable network manager. I have a virtual environment. The molecule's written in Python, so I can just pip install practically everything. In fact, here's my requirements file. So Ansible, Flake, molecule, Python, Vagrant, and Tox. And then let's code that. Why did I get? Oh, this is an old one. Get rid of that. Excuse me. Tasks. Now, so the way I have this configured, or the way I've been having everything in Molecule configured, because we're messing around with system services, while Molecule does support Docker, I have to have Molecule use instead Vagrant. While there is a way to test systemctl type processes inside of Docker with very specialized images, it's more trouble than it's worth. So I don't waste the time with it. The molecule's configured, so there's VirtualBox, there's my lint file, there's the name of the Vagrant box that I use. Due to the way I handle, I have a Vagrant environment with authentication configured, and this just make guarantees that it's hooked in and will work with that authentication environment. Ansible set the roles path, so this is when Molecule goes to stand up Vagrant, it'll go and grab the modules out of my project Ansible directory and run Ansible on the host. Based on the playbook YAML and the prepare YAML. There's the linter, and I'm ignoring this specific rule. I don't remember what that one is offhand. And then saying I'm using test infra, the linter is flake 8, and don't bother looking at the virtual environment because that's pip specific, and I'm not linting other people's code. All right, so the way this works is first it will look at prepare YAML. Here's prepare YAML. It's a pretty straightforward Ansible playbook. Here's some pre-tasks. First, verify that Ansible that Python is installed, otherwise Ansible can't run. And here I'm saying go grab the variables, or what the setup module will do is it will go and create the factor facts for the host. And then currently I run my automated bits dash corp role. It will go and set up a repository or it will point to the repository server all the yum repos in the port. It'll ignore SSL verify because that's part of the I have not stood up pulp. I'm using pulp to host my RPM repos, and then I'm saying I don't have SSL set up, so don't check for it. I'm saying for this role that I've created, additional repos will go and say, here's the name of the repo, here's the path on the pulp server that the repository lives in. If it's Vagrant, it's true. The automated bits corp will do some special networking stuff specific for Vagrant. Set up the name servers, the net adapter, ETH1. So ETH0 is always going to be a NAT interface for Vagrant. And I set up ETH1 specifically as a private network back to the authentication environment and the pulp server. And the net type is Ethernet because just might as well have it there because these roles may not necessarily always run on a Ethernet type server. So that's my prepare, and then once prepare is done, Molecule will run the playbook, which just simply calls the role, and it just points back to the role that I'm creating right here. One thing I just realized before I do a proper test run is I need to stand up my Vagrant environment. There's two primary things that I need to make sure is up and running whenever I'm developing. One is actually the pulp-server. Vagrant up. Again, the pulp server is just pretty much it's a open source project run by or helped maintained by Red Hat, and acts as a free, easy to use Yum repository. I would just use Artifactory. However, Artifactory is not free. It's not cheap, and I'm looking for cheap and working. Working is a key one. While that is spinning up, I should go over to, so the key thing with this Vagrant is that I never destroy the pulp Vagrant, just because of the amount of binaries it would have to sync every single time, and that would take a very long time. So I don't destroy this Vagrant instance, but I have a quick way to turn it back on and off. Let's see, and then finally I have the final bit of this is wrong directory. Oop. The final bit of this is the authentication environment. This is actually multiple boxes, as you can see. This stands up 4 boxes, a free IPA server. Instead of guessing, let me pull it up. Code, projects, Vagrant, environment. Been a while since I've looked at this. Let's see. So, yep, I have four machines, and I had to kind of define them here because of Ansible provisioning. Machine 1 is the IPA server. Machine 2 is going to be Keycloak, which is not yet implemented, so nothing really happens to it. Machine 3 is NFS, so that we have auto-mount sharing. And machine 4 is the client. This is simply there just so that I can test and make sure IPA is running, single sign-on is working, and just validate that the environment is up and ready to go. It's a little harder to validate that with the way I've set it up without this client. It's possible, but it also doesn't look as nifty. All right, so let's check back. So it's standing these up. Unfortunately, one thing that I always end up having to do, and I believe it's with the auth environment, is as soon as it stood up the machines, I have to tell Vagrant to run Ansible again. Vagrant takes it upon itself to rename hosts among a few other things, and it messes up free IPA after something's been registered as free IPAs, depending on DNS and Kerberos, in order for that stuff to work. Let's see. So while that's running, well, wait for this guy to come up. Yes, notice right here it's setting the host name. It's going to set the host name to machine 4, which is not what we... Is it what we want? I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've touched this thing. Okay, yeah, so it's machine 4 dot and then the domain, which I've put as test.int for simplicity's sake. All right, Vagrant provision. Like force provision marked with. I just do it. Oh, this is another one of those cases where I need to source the Python environment. That again. one thing you might have noticed briefly is up here, it's Vagrant is trying to provision to machine 4. The reason that is the way it is simply because of this. For the simplicity of the logic, as soon as it stood up all 4 nodes and the machine ID is 4 at this point, then go and run the go run Ansible. Thankfully, though, because of these groups right here, Ansible will provision each host accordingly and not just touch 4. So there it's running, or it's already ran. So I could pull up VirtualBox, and I can open up machine 4 to show GUI right here, and click on my name. And unfortunately, whenever I provision, my user account password gets reset. So I gotta change it back. I'm not worried about that as far as Ansible is concerned in the long run, because I will not be setting a user account every single time. If I let Ansible do that, it's gonna keep resetting my password, and I don't want that. So there I'm logged in, and it logged in with free IPA. Everything should be good. Let's scale this up a bit so let's see. There we go. One thing that's very nice is with this, single sign-on should work, assuming the services are set up. But the best way to be able to actually prove that is to go to machine 1, which is the free IPA server. There I am. I'm logged in as myself. While I can't really do anything in this view, at the very least this proves the point that single sign-on is indeed working. So, with that, let's come back. So now that I have my preparation environment ready, the reason why I bother to even have this authentication environment in this pulp server is so that I can develop on the go without the need of hitting the internet, logging back in, any of that stuff. At the same time, this is great for being able to stand up a secluded environment for testing new things without messing with production. Which, never mess with production unless you've fully tested everything. Even to this day, I'm still dealing with that in normal everyday work. All right, so pulp service should be running. So at this point, this should work. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and tell Molecule to run, and I'll tell it to run the entire test suite. So when I tell Molecule to test, it will stand up a Vagrant instance. It will run through the playbooks, ensure everything ensure everything finished without error. So right now it's creating the Molecule instance. It also tested up here the YAML lint, the Flake8, and the Ansible lint, making sure that the formatting is all great. Once it's stood up the instances, it applies the Ansible playbooks, and then when it's done applying them, it will run them again for item potency. The idea, well, the definition is not exact. The idea is that if you run a playbook multiple times and it doesn't change, then it's item potent. First time should be the only thing that changes. Every sequential run after that should never show changes unless you change something in the code. Now, after it's checked for item potency, so here it's running through the prepare, and it's clearing the default repos so that it will set some backup pointing to the pulp server, which is local, and now it's installing the NMCLI prerequisites so it can change the networking. And with that, I know the pulp server is working. So after it's checked for item potency, it will then run the test suites that I've written. In this case, it's just that one test. And then once it's validated that the test is run, it will successfully exit, and you are ready for the next step. Let's see, let's go ahead and close this out. Now, as far as this playbook itself is concerned, I'm just disabling the network manager. That's really all I want. OpenStack cannot run with the network manager running, so it needs to be off. So here it went ahead and converged, did the item potency. There's the capability within Molecule to run side effects. So for example, if a database goes down, what happens? I haven't really done anything with this, so I'm not entirely sure on the effect of this. So scenario default, it's going to verify the test, runs the test passed is just the one. It's one, each test is a module. So in the test suite here, this is a test. And that passed. And now that it passed, it destroyed it, destroyed the molecule, cleaned up after itself, and we're good to go. All right, so this module is good to go. All right, so let's check back with our OpenStack stuff. So we verified that the network manager is turned off. Next, let's look at a module for creating OpenStack, or to install the OpenStack packages. So in my servers downstairs, I'm simply just running rel, or specifically CentOS 7. I don't have a need for the other OSs, so for now I will not write my modules for them. Let's see. So one thing I should also do is I need to make sure that the OpenStack repositories on Yum are set up. I believe they are, but better to confirm. Trust but confirm. I trust myself to have done the right thing, but I should confirm it. All right, so let's go to projects, Vagrant, and the Pulp server, Vagrant SSH in. There I go. And then there's the Pulp admin dash. Yep. All right, so dash U admin dash P admin. It's a local environment. I don't really care about security so much. And it's just hosting binaries. Worst comes to worst, I just re-download them. I destroy, recreate, re-download. And then repos. So repo list. There we go. So here's the entire list of CentOS repos that I have installed, or just all the repos in general. So we have MongoDB, we have the CentOS QEMU, Apple 7, CentOS base updates and extras, which are all part of the base OS image, and then finally Ceph and OpenStack Queens. And according to this, so here it is, OpenStack Queens. Looks like there's not much to this, so let's create a new, go ahead and create a new Ansible module. Go ahead and close this out. Okay. Deactivate. I can spell. There we go. So what I've done is I have a molecule env, which is specific. I use it specifically for creating new modules. So I will source that. I should already have that in my history. There it is. And then once that's sourced, I can, there's a molecule command specific for creating a new module. Let's see, molecule, where did it go? Dependency destroy item codes, init. And then this is going to be a new role. And the defaults for the most part are fine. The driver, however, will be vagrant, lint provisioner, and the role name is OpenStack packages. Verify I'm using the. It's always tricky making sure that you're consistent in your wording. I should be using underscores. So OpenStack underscore packages. Should be good. There we go. There's OpenStack packages. And state. Let's go ahead and, oh, I just realized this OpenStack packages should be inside the OpenStack directory. I created an OpenStack directory just to hold everything in. OpenStack packages. First, let's initialize get. That we got tracking. And then one thing that I do tend to, I can just copy a lot of stuff around for at least the basics. Because a lot of it's the same, but Molecule doesn't set up defaults the way that I tend to have them for this for now. That is specifically there's the YAML lint here. I need to set up the virtual environment and the requirements. And then I need to set up, there's some molecule specific settings inside that directory that I need to copy over. So let's copy those over. CP projects, bits, YAML lint. There's an easier way to do this. CP YAML lint requirements, then molecule default, molecule YAML. Actually, this is wrong. Sorry. Let's look over default, the prepare, the playbook. Right, so the two I need to pull over is prepare and molecule. Let's go to vagrant, and there's molecule. This won't work. Where this isn't one that I do because it doesn't have a prepare. Prepare is in. Actually, we can just take it from disabled network manager. We were just using it. CP YAML requirements. The virtual environment is done by a Python command. Molecule default molecule default prepare. That will go to up one OpenStack packages. Boom. We come back over here. There they are. So let's move molecule and prepare into molecule default. Can I move molecule? Really? YAML. I already did the prepare. All right, so now let's create the virtual environment. There it is. Python 3 virtual environment. I'm going to use Python 3.6, and it's going to make a new directory called venv. All right, and then we can source it. Oop. Wrong source. There's the source. So now we're inside the pip environment. And then we can do pip install -r requirements, and it will install all the necessary requirements for that environment away from the system. The best thing about using virtual environments is you're able to create an environment away from your system so that you're not having a conflict or juggling, 20 different versions. You're isolated and you're not killing your system or potentially other projects at the same time. Excuse me. All right. So let's go ahead and open this in code. I cannot hit the proper keys on a keyboard. Code dot go. That's a common problem. I haven't figured that one out yet, but it goes away as soon as all the initial changes are committed. Oh, there is actually one more file I forgot to pull in, which is the git ignore. I have a pre-made git ignore specifically for stuff like this. Git ignore here. And then that way it is going to ignore the virtual environment, which code does not do a good job showing. But if I do a git status, there we go, venv does not show up. All right, so let's go ahead and make an initial commit. That should be everything. There's nothing hidden or malicious or just stuff I don't want to handle or have inside git. Should be here. Whoops. Only I turned on lock. Yep, that looks right. So let's do git commit initial commits for new Ansible module installing OpenStack packages. All right, and we can go back to code, and this will probably update in a bit. Oh, there we go, no changes. All right, so let's take a look first off at the tests. So here's the default. The molecule will always put this set of tests in, and usually the first thing I do is rip this out. First, let's double check what it is I'm installing. So first, I want to make sure that the OpenStack repository is installed. Test OpenStack repo installed, and let's see, it is just host. It's, yep, just the host needs to get passed in as it's used for the test. So test installed. All right, so now we have to write the test. There is one thing there's two ways I can go about this. One is there is a test infra. So there's a lot of reference material here. First place I usually go to is the modules. And there's specific things to look out for. There is not something here specifically for looking at repositories. The only way to really do that is to look at the file and verify that it's there. I believe I actually might have this logic already somewhere, so I'm not reinventing the wheel. Ansible projects, Ansible. I believe this is let's look at this real quick. So here, I guess you're not there. It's under Vagrant. Oh no, it's under resources. Yes. So the reason why this looks different is for every directory that you have, you're creating a scenario, a test scenario. So I have two. I have Vagrant, which is good for whenever I'm trying to stand things up specific for my Vagrant local test environment. and default is when it's just running on normal hosts and I don't have to do anything special with it. So here it is, test default, repos removed. So it's double checking that the base repos were removed. And then here, test core repos added. So I'm just simply testing to verify that the proper repository is created. The repo.d CentOS 7. This is going to be different. Question is, so this is where I have to deviate a bit from the docs, but not by much. So what I'm doing is, so normally what you do is yum install CentOS release OpenStack Queens. All that really does is creates a bunch of repositories for you. I took it upon myself to take those repositories and make them local. And so OpenStack, the CentOS OpenStack Queens, Ceph Luminous, and the QEMU EV are all repositories that are being added, or that is getting set up with the yum repo, with this yum install. Because I don't necessarily want things to be hitting the internet, they have to point back to pulp. So the first thing I will do is ensure that there's actually going to be 3 of these lines, 1 for each repository. And the repository names, I'll just have the same as the display ID, because otherwise it gets confusing. Let's go ahead and put these in. Back up here, get the 1. There we go. And there's our test. It's relatively straightforward, or at least for what we're doing. So if we were to come back here and do a molecule test, it should set everything up, run or converge, which there's nothing to do. It will then create the well, there's the preparation script, which has some pre-built stuff. It will then go and create the converge and then run the tests. And then it will fail out because these repositories do not exist yet. Now, the way to help with that actually be here it's setting up the running prepare. It will destroy all the stuff. We'll set up the new stuff. One thing I should probably point out is you'll see there's 4 repos that it is setting up. EPEL 7, as you can see here, was the only one defined. My module defaults to setting up OS updates and extras, just so that it's less clutter, and they should always be there because they're core OS repositories. Now, what I should do next is, actually, there's one other thing. There's another reason I set up the client. One is that there's a small, because of yum and the way it works, there's a web interface that we can use to look and verify the path of the repositories. I don't think copy paste works. Oh, it doesn't work. I believe that's because I don't think Vagrant. I do not believe the Vagrant, or sorry, the VirtualBox tools is properly set up. No biggie. Put it in by hand. That's probably going to time out. It won't respond to that. Yep. And so here's what a failure looks like. So it tried to verify that these files existed. Specifically, it got caught on the first one, saw the failure, bailed out. which is exactly what we want. So we need to set up that repository, and the way we do that is by setting up name and path here on the automated bits role. Let's put this side by side so it's a little easier. There's that one. And again, the names should be identical. Well, it should be the same all the way across, otherwise it's just confusing. Just setting up 3 of them ahead of time so I can just we've got this one, and we've got this one, bam. And then so now what we need to do is figure out the paths, which was why we were trying to look at the interface here. First, what I can do is I can actually go to I can either look inside an existing box, or I can look inside my automated bits logic. I usually decide that logging into the Vagrant box is a little bit easier, as long as you know how to type. Etsy yum.repod. Here's the repos, and if I cat, let's look at Apple. So there's the base URL 8443. ES:// The reason why this IP actually works the way it does is because of the network interface that I used. I wanted to make sure that I have one pulp server that works for everything. The way it configures that is usually when Ansible logs in, it comes from this IP address as far as the Vagrant machines are concerned. So that usually works. Yep, not secure. Exception. So there's our front. And we do /pulp. Right, I think pulp and repos are not cooperating. N0228443/ oops, worked. Let's do this oh, that should have worked, otherwise things would have out. Let's go ahead and put the other one. 5030. I thought about it and didn't like it. This guy should have okay. Open link directory. Oh, I forgot the file slash. There are web servers that care that much. Oh, that still didn't work. Oh, because the IP address is all wrong now. There it is. I am missing. Close one of these. I am missing my CentOS stuff. CentOS 7. There it goes. All right. So one thing I should probably do that'll help explain this a bit more is if I do -- details, it will show a lot more information. One of the important informations is this relative URL. This relative URL feeds back into up here. So for example, in this case, relative URL, so this is the pulp repository. It's coming off of this URL, or it's syncing with that URL, and the relative URL is pulp/2. So once you're on the pulp server, it's pulp/2, and then this is the beginning of the repository case package. So with that in mind, let's take a look at our OpenStack stuff. Here it is. So here is the relative URL for OpenStack Queens. We can then take that URL. Once you know this, you probably actually don't need to look at the web UI in the first place. So, and that I tried to make it so that this path was matched the relative path on pulp. To verify that, let's look at the EPEL 7. Well, where are you? There you are. Here's the relative URL, EPEL-7/x8664, EPEL-7/x8664. So if you have the relative URL, you have what you need to feed into Ansible. Let's go back to the OpenStack Queens. Here is the relative URL for OpenStack Queens. And then let's look for the others. So we have Ceph Luminous. Relative URL is. And the final one is GPU. There it is. Relative URL. There we go. So now, if we rerun this, the test should pass. Let's give that another go. Usually takes a bit. What I like to do is pull up the system monitor and watch this thing chug. One thing I wish Linux had is the ability to, much like Windows, one thing Windows actually has a one-up on is the ability to see a hard drive access part like these. That would be very nice. Here it's clearing the default repos. Here they're setting up the repos. Going the NMCLI because it's just setting up the stuff again. Now keep in mind that what we edited is still not part of the module. It's just part of the preparation. So what we're testing isn't really part of the module. Uh, but if these prerequisites are not there, it should fail out. And I don't want to necessarily go and recreate that. Idempotence, here's our test. And it passed. Now it's going to destroy the molecule instance, and we can move on to the next step. So now that we have tested that the repositories are there, we want to test that the, what was the, there it is. We want to install the OpenStack client and the SE Linux rules. This is a bit of a pickle. There's one thing that I want to do is to I would like to, there's nothing really much in the module itself. This is just simply adding to the existing automated bits corp role values. What is this? Well, we're installing those packages, and then we will probably want this to also install the, well, we have the SQL database, the message queue, and the memcached, and the etcd. In a more expensive professional environment, you would actually have those 4 services running on their own. Or on each on their own server, not all on one. However, I only have 4 boxes, 3 of which are going to be the compute nodes, and this final one is going to be the OpenStack master. So in this case, what I will do, you know what? I'll just leave it so that this particular module is just installing the Python OpenStack client, the OpenStack SE Linux. Not a huge module, but it does the job. So test OpenStack is installed. Host cert host dot where I need the documentation. Test package. Excuse me. So this is host dot package. Then the name of the package dot is installed, and those should be true. I have 2 packages. They were Python OpenStack client and Linux. Now, one thing that may happen, and this has happened before, is when Yum installs these packages, they actually show up in the, as far as RPM QA is concerned, it's a different package name. So what may end up happening is I'll have to check that these either installed with the same name, or if it's a different name, I may have to fix my test for this. So one thing that's helpful that Molecule lets me do is I can do a Molecule if I remember right, if I do converge, it won't create, nope, it will create. So, and this will show, this up here shows the order it's going to do things. So here's the scenario. I'm going to install whatever I define as a dependency, which I don't have anything. It will create the instance, which is what it's doing right now. It will prepare the instance and converge it. Once it's been converged, I can, if I do a molecule verify, it runs the test suite, but it won't destroy like the test is doing. The test runs the entire suite from start to finish and destroys. Verify just simply runs the test once it's up and going. So you can keep an instance up, do development, and you're not accidentally, you don't have to waste time recreating. You can have some level of persistence as far as your as far as your development is concerned for that period. So you know what's moving. So what I will do is, once this is up, I will log in and I will run the commands by hand, then verify. If they fail, then I know that the package names are different and I will have to find the new package name. There we go. I do molecule login. Now, if there was more than one host, I would have to specify the name of the instance, but because I only have the one, we'll just log you right in. So I will do yum install. This is python-openstack int. And I'll install the other ones with OpenStack Linux. Boom. See, this is exactly what it's gonna probably cause, is installing all of these packages. I don't really need. There it is. So I don't need to test all of these. I just need to test the big ones. So there's OpenStack SE Linux, which I am catching here. So that name is good. Here's Python 2 OpenStack client. That is enough to cause an issue. So this is XP2. We'll test for that. We'll install the same one, so Python OpenStack client. We won't specify a version, but we'll test for it because that's what's going to actually be installed. That's the name of the actual package. So this is okay. Let's go ahead and install it. The other good reason for having this hosted on Pulp is it's very local, so it's very quick. Unless, of course, the individual package wants to do something. So here we're seeing some CPU spikes. Excuse me. This package is sacking this one core. Yeah, unfortunately, Pulp doesn't help with the actual speed of installation. It just helps with the speed of downloading the package, which can be uh, pretty. Sorry about the bumps. Can be in and of itself be fairly time consuming. There it goes. All right, so let's go ahead and leave the molecule instance and do molecule verify. And these two tests should. They did. All right, so we know. Back over to OpenStack. Have our task here. So let's go ahead and create the task so that this will pass on its own without my intervention. Hash name all back. Name item, because we're gonna just loop through it. Oop. State with items. Will be the stack the Python without the two stack. This will have to be surrounded in quotes because otherwise OpenStack or YAML will complain. All right, Python 2, that should look fine. Let's come back out here, do a molecule converge. Now it shouldn't have to do anything, but we'll do this just to make sure that the syntax is fine. There we go. So it's already seen that it's installed, which is exactly what we want. Then that should pretty much do it for this Ansible module. Let's go ahead and do a molecule destroy. And finally, molecule test. And everything should pass with flying colors except for this. Oh, yeah, this is a basic Python lint thing that teaches me a lot. You need two blank spaces between methods. There you go. Now it should go do the prepare, it'll do the converge, and then it'll do the test. And that module will be written. Let's go ahead and move on to the next thing, which is going to be the SQL database. We're on CentOS. All right, here we're going to get into much deeper Ansible. So first, let's go ahead and let's get out of here. We don't need that. Get out of here. We don't need that. And let's go ahead and create a new Ansible module. Source molecule. Let's just do this. I like to use my reverse search a lot. There we go. Then our init go, and actually put this in the right directory this time. The molecule init role -d vagrant -r, and this is going to be OpenStack SQL. And let's go ahead and get the others ready. So OpenStack MQ, and then mem cached in etcd, mem cached, and d. Since we're going to be going to these anyway, might as well create them ahead of time. And then once these are written, we should have the very beginnings of a basic OpenStack setup, and then we'll be able to move on to Keystone, our first thing. Uh-oh. Oh, I forgot. That's one thing my test did not account for, which is that this needs to be become true. Let's run that again. So even though this does take a bit to run, it would be quicker with Docker, but again, we have to, we have to worry about the systemd. And it can take a bit. Well, it can take a bit. Systemd on Docker is not stable. The last time I interacted with it, it was problematic. So instead, I choose to do Vagrant. The moment I start doing Ansible stuff that doesn't depend on systemd, I will go ahead and switch over to Docker in a heartbeat because it is so much quicker. Oops. So this is where being a bit parallel works. The nice thing though is, as slow as this is still much quicker compared to other with that. If you were to go without molecule, worst case, best case scenario without molecule, you've got maybe a Terraform, you're spinning up AWS or something in your cloud, and then you have to either move the bits or you have to set up your local Ansible to work with those new hosts, and they have to deal with their SSH keys and so on. And then you have to, and then you run it, you're testing by hand, yada, yada, yada. It's a mess. That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario is you actually have physical hardware that you have to keep spinning up and spinning down over and over and over again. So I think we found out last time these two packages took a bit. So let's let them run. In the meantime, let's go ahead and set up the rest of our new roles. So we will do, we had our copies, check, they are here. So I can use this as a reference. So especially looking at 1984. And then I also need to do the .git init, or the .git ignore. The first thing, let's go ahead and go into each of these and do git init. Get those out of the way. I can do init. And SQL git init. All right. And then we should be able to copy from OpenStack packages .git ignore. So let's actually go cd into packages cp .git ignore. We also have the requirements.txt, the YAML lint, and the next ones are all inside of the molecule directory. First, let's go and say we're going to copy into OpenStack cd. Right there. And same thing for cached. which is not the correct way to pronounce it, but I like doing it that way. One. MQ and SQL. Go. Go to molecule. Let's go to default. Then molecule prepare. And then goes back. OpenStack, etcd, molecule, default. And replace etcd with cached. MQ. And finally SQL. Last but not least, we have to set up the virtual environments. Go. Go module. Oh wait. Still in the molecule env1 again. What just happened? Oh, I don't want to do this in OpenStack packages. New stuff. There we go. Go and just source these new ones here and pick them all. That's working. Let's test on this. There we go. And we passed. OpenStack packages is officially ready for prime time. So the one thing that we can do is, as we work on the next modules, we can pull OpenStack packages as a role to apply, and that should let us continue work on the subsequent modules. All right, so we did the pip install, deactivate, OpenStack cached, Python, oh, forgot the source. Go. Deactivate. Q. Python. Source. Oop. Yep. Activate. My dog is howling in the background. She does not like phone calls. SQL. Python. Oop. Use source. Yep. There we go. All right. All the modules should be ready to go now. Let's see. First, I'm going to do. I'll leave this open for a couple of reference points, but next is SQL. So let's open up the SQL module. Back SQL code. Oh, and then let's go ahead and do our initial. Just remember, we didn't do our git init for, or our commit for OpenStack packages now that things are working. Those are all good. Git commit. Normally I don't do git add, but if there's literally nothing else, usually fine. Otherwise I'll pull each one individually. Let's just do git commit. and initial working module with. I will does install stack repos their modules playbooks, do that, and then we'll install the stack Python client and OpenStack Linux. Go. And it's all clean. Let's quickly go into each of these and make our initial commit. Oops. Somehow I keep hitting caps lock. Okay, add commit full commit. Okay. Get status, get add, get commit, show commit. Second queue. Status, add, it, show, and free. Stack SQL, status, go. All right, what's up? Tasks, add up the tests to the side. Then let's also look at the molecule YAML should be fine. Oh, let's look at the prepare. So we need these. We will also need to add the role of OpenStack is. I think that's it. Yep, because we're not passing any kind of variables for any reason. Excuse me. All right, so let's look and see what they want. So we want to get these packages installed. This out, test, SQL packages installed. And then let's look at this for reference. Post.package. Cert post.package. And there. That is installed. There we go. Go ahead and copy this line. We have our line at the end, otherwise it gets whiny. Linter does anyway. These two in. There's no white space. Bam. And let's just start with that. This will be a good starting point for these set of tests, just to make sure that the prepare is not only is written right, but that the whole structure is written correct. Molecule. Let's do converge. And then once we do a converge, we'll do a we'll go ahead and do a verify, assuming everything sets up correctly, which it should, but better safe than sorry. The whole idea is you want to make sure you're doing small incremental changes. If you change too much, it becomes harder to figure out what broke. While not impossible, it just is harder. It also feels better when you see that something worked. Oh, excuse me. OpenStack packages. So at the very least, we pulled in the role correctly. That's good. Just to make sure, we did want to disable those because actually, for this particular case, we may actually not need to pull that in. It won't hurt anything this run, but no point having it do extra stuff it doesn't need to do. Yeah, definitely don't want to add these in if we don't need to. There we go. All right, so if we do molecule verify, that should fail. It does fail. All right. So now we'll do the same similar thing as what we did before. I just copy these over. And they will be at and squeeze. Install OpenStack equal packages. Go ahead and molecule converge. Now, molecule converge will not rerun prepare, which saves us time, especially considering how long it took. The flip side of that, however, we won't see our change of removing the repositories, which is negligible for this. Now, if we run verify, it should pass. It does. There we go. All right, so next we need to create a OpenStack.cnf, and we need to create a template for Ansible to feed in. And then finally, we'll test the services. Family's trying to get a hold of me. All right. Let's go ahead and create this template. So let's create what I like to do is I'll create a templates directory, create a new file, stack.cnf, because it's a template, J2. I can't remember. Let's do Jinja. Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Nappy. Sorry if I mispronounced this. Nappy-headed sloth. Nice name. Thanks. I appreciate it. It's a new thing. I'm just trying to get things off the ground, honestly. All right, let's see. Yep, J2. I was right. Let's fix that. Rename .j2 and get the comment. Sorry, I'm all over the place. Let's pull this in, and we will want that to be we want that to be dynamic based on the actual IP. Let's see. Ever mess with Terraform? Actually, I have. So this is not the first instance I've actually first time I've actually stood up OpenStack. So I stood up OpenStack by hand, and then I messed with Terraform a bunch to actually provision Kubernetes out onto my OpenStack cluster. It's very powerful. My only problem with Terraform, and I really do hope that they evolve it past this point, is it can get a little unruly fairly quickly. Unfortunately, it's been so long. I don't have any good examples to show my point, but some of their DSL is not as flexible as I kind of need it to be when it comes to standing up dynamic clusters. If I remember right, and it has been a while, one of the primary problems that I ran into was being able to help scale the Kubernetes cluster based on compute nodes, as well as feeding it dynamic content based on what's going on at the time. And so it I think the potential is there, but it definitely feels like it best fits as a kind of a stand it up once, let something else manage the growth of the cluster, and then when you're done, tear it back down. And actually, we are using Terraform in my current job where we're standing up VIX, um, uh, AWS VIX, and doing quick test on that through Jenkins jobs. And then as soon as it's done, we tear it all back down, as well as it's multiple stages. So we take snapshots and for quicker deployments in the future based on what part we're deploying. Um, like I said, definitely has potential. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm not surprised. There's a bit of a delay. I think there's just I'm honestly not. I don't have my Twitch in the or my chat in the right place, so I'm sorry if I'm missing a bit, um, or slow to respond. Let's see. DevOps is a great field. There's a lot of good dynamic content out there. It's honestly from even every so often I step back and it's amazing how far we've come in machine provisioning, because I remember it seemed like I was reinstalling Windows every other month back in Windows XP. Uh, and while not directly related, DevOps has definitely helped with that, and it's pretty amazing how far it's come in such a short amount of time. Let's see. Oh, cool. Yeah, if you start up a stream, definitely, I'd love to actually check it out, see what you're up to, and so feel free to let me know. I appreciate it. Thanks very much. If you let people know about me, that'd be awesome. But yeah, if when you ever get started, feel free to hit me up either back here or on my Twitter at I can't remember. I have a very special Twitter. I believe it's at Danigrithos. Danigrithos. Actually, the it should be right there on my channel down below. And so yeah, soon if you get started, hit me up. I'd love to check it out. And just evolve from there. no, no worries. Uh, feel free to quote me all you want. Let me see. Let me take a sec and make sure I'm using the right mouse. Let me see if I can get actually the chat over on the correct side so I can actually see what's going on. Be a bit more responsive. That should help. Oh wow. First interview yesterday. That's kind of cool. Be kind of curious where you first interviewed. I kind of just a small history about myself. I actually kind of evolved into the field, so to speak. I actually started off as SCM, where I was doing build type jobs. So Jenkins used to be Hudson at the time before Jenkins split off, and then I was managing Jenkins builds, version control, Subversion, and and then it just kind of slowly evolved from there. And I think one thing that definitely helped was as part of that same thing, I was in charge of a VMware cluster, and I think I was DevOps without really knowing it. I think it was definitely an interesting experience. Um, oh wow, you're self-taught. That's awesome. That's great. I'm honestly most of the stuff I'm doing is self-taught as well. A lot of the I just honestly I just did a lot by myself, and that's the best way to do it. Hands-on, uh, just experiencing everything, and just slowly learning. I've always thought that regardless of what kind of a learner you are, because there's people who are hands-on, people are kinesthetic learners, visual spatial learners. There's There's the people who can just hear it and they're good. The auditory learners. I, when it comes to computers, I really do believe, regardless of what kind of a learner you are in any other way, if you have to be kind of kinesthetic learner because you have to witness what it is the computer is doing based on what you're telling it, and then just an evolution from there and finding out more things and new things. Um, and it rolls from there. It really does. It has been very aggravating for me where I have to take a back seat because of various security restrictions, and it's like it's I so much want to just jump in. It's like just let me do it. Let me do it. But yeah, that's awesome that you're self taught. Medium sized company in Knoxville, Tennessee, called Radio Systems. A lot more junior DevOps positions these days than there used to be. Oh, absolutely. Um, I'm actually out here in Denver, and not only is our unemployment in general really low, especially in IT, just for in the Denver area, a lot of them are actually DevOps type positions. I think um, with the advent of cloud computing, and especially the whole idea of being disconnected and away from the data center itself and not being hands on, has really made it so that you can have a tech job practically anywhere. The only restriction there's no technical reason you can't be somewhere else away from the physical tech. The only restriction at that point becomes where's your team located. Um, I There are some people who can do the work from home. I don't know how they can do it. Too many distractions. Uh, of I'd rather be doing this other thing. Um, Kudos to them for being able to work it. But as far as um, but there's definitely an aspect of being there with the team. You come in the morning, you work with the team, you know that constant feeling of actual teamwork, and then you leave for the day, and it just starts up again the next day. And I think that's honestly going to be the only restriction that keeps, at least for me, and it might be for a few others, working from home or even just working remote, where you're like one guy in the middle of an actual office, but the rest of your team's off in the other side of the country. But that's going to be, I think, the restriction of preventing people from doing that. But some people can do it. Unfortunately, I'm not that talented in that regard. Oh wow, yeah, I've been looking at AWS making Alexa skills as a hobby and fell in love with it. Cool. Yeah, I've been meaning to touch AWS more. Right now, my cloud computing skills has actually just been uh, VMware and OpenStack. Um, I think one thing that there's a lot of unique things that AWS has. Um, excuse me. That while that How do I say this? AWS has a lot of unique things that quickly make it so that you become vendor trapped within the AWS ecosystem, which is exactly what they want. That's their business model. And the Microsoft with their Azure, and even OpenStack itself, they're just as guilty. But I think one thing that helps is there's several products out there, Terraform included, that help make that vendor lock in a lot less likely. Um, and just the AWS Alexa right there. That's a potential avenue of vendor lock in based depending on what you're doing. Um, but that's cool that that's actually pretty awesome that you're able to work on Alexa skills. I've been looking at it, but I've been there's that's one thing I'm kind of really hoping to uh, as I'm working on this little project right here, trying to build my own OpenStack Ansible configuration management modules and whatnot. Once I've got OpenStack up and running, I can look at a couple other hobbies that I liked that I've been wanting to get into. One of which is actually machine learning, um, and just general data science. as well as some website programming, full stack development, um, and just get hands on with the stuff. By no means are they is the OpenStack cluster I'm building a prerequisite for that stuff. I could easily, like what you did with the Alexa skills, spin up AWS and start working out of all that. Um, but it's one of the things that I'm trying not to fall into is a common everyday occurrence with stuff with people in our field is actually the um uh oh, I'm working on all these projects and which ones and how many have you completed? None of them. I'm trying to avoid that pitfall that apparently is fairly common. Um and I think once I get OpenStack stood up or behind configuration management, things will definitely accelerate. Um, but it's absolutely a valuable experience, and I don't, as much as I want to get to the other stuff, I want to make sure I get I want to get this down pat, reaffirm my current tech skills with the current job industry, and then evolve from there. And who doesn't like chilling in their pajamas, doing work? I would love that. It's that's honestly, if you do work remote from home, that's one thing you got to be careful of is, like, make sure that your shirt is professional, but make sure you don't stand up too you don't stand up too much in front of a working camera. uh yeah, I do not doubt that. I really do. I do believe that the Alexa skills with AWS help to give that foundation. I think AWS has made it very, very easy. That's why they're the gorilla in the room when it comes to this DevOps stuff. Um, it's quite amazing what Amazon did, and they were the first. Um, I love the stuff that Amazon's coming out of or that Amazon's putting out. I do worry that they're getting too big, but that's a personal concern. Um, but the I would not want to work there. And it's nothing against Amazon, but it's one of those business type cultures that it's go go go, and if you're just having an off day, you may fall behind, or they're going to get potentially so, and this is probably me blowing it out of proportion, but you just have one bad day where your brain's not working, and all of a sudden it's like, the world's falling apart and it's all your fault. um and I and I'm sure they're more reasonable than that, but it's it it's a choice that I act. It's like I said, I respect Amazon and the cool new things that they're doing and the speed that they're able to do it, but that's not for me. Um, but you never know. Yeah. All right. Um. So, by the way, thanks for the communication. It's wonderful. I like to keep that up. So feel free to ask any other questions if you're wondering what I'm doing, or if you want to get a better understanding of what my foundation is and how my dev flow is working. Just feel free to ask questions. This is honestly, it's not. This is just me doing my own thing in front of a public audience. I think the interaction is more for you and any other viewers that come and look, just to get an inside look. Yeah, medium-sized companies. There's been I've been, to be fair, most of the companies I've been to have been medium to small. My current one is on the large side. Unfortunately, because of the nature of the job, I can't really talk too much about it. However, I have been at one large company, and they're the only ones that actually managed to, I think, get it right for the most part, despite their size, and that was Intel. Um, they took a different approach where a lot of these core services are handled by IT, and IT is really responsive and really big. Um, a lot of other companies I've been to, it's like, IT is like 2 people and you've got like 300 plus people. It's amazing. Uh, oh, thanks. Yeah. So so I'm sure the delay is definitely coming through. I suspect the delay is probably two-way. The delay is definitely coming from the fact that I it's not this machine I'm working on. I've got a separate machine over here that's actually doing the video processing. So it's a combination of the video processing, compressing, and then pushing it up to Twitch. And then and then Twitch has to do whatever processing they do to then push it back out to you and anyone else. There is definitely a clear and very noticeable delay. Um, it takes a bit of getting used to. I watch and participate in a few other streams here and there, and it's noticeable. Um, you get used to it. It takes a bit of getting used to. Um, so, all right. So, yeah, feel free to ask questions, and let's. Whoop, man, I'm pushing the wrong button again. Wrong mouse. All right, let's take a look at creating this template. Streaming platform do I use? So I am using Streamlabs OBS. And then they are then pushing the stream out to Twitch. The I decided on using Streamlabs instead of just pure OBS, just because I needed to I wanted to get going and not spend too much time putting together a lot of the fancy stuff that they've got. So for example, you might notice in the see if I can get this right in that corner. Well, now I'm curious. Now I want to know. Did I get the right side? Yes, that corner. In that corner, I've got, for example, the tip jar, which is just there to be there. I expect nothing, honestly. And then actually up above me, I'm sure you've noticed, is the chat, which ideally should be working. I don't see it working. I may need to look into that. Oh wait, it's in a weird text. Good catch. You're paying attention. Yes. So I'm using 2 computers. You don't have to use 2 computers by all means, but I like what I've got right now. And it helps keep things a bit isolated. So what I've got is, so my main machine that you see on the stream is Linux. Specifically, I'm using, because this is a System 76 machine, I opted to go ahead and have System 76 put on Pop! OS, which is a derivative of Ubuntu. And then I actually have an HDMI cable coming from Linux through my my video processor card, which is it's over USB, called AverMedia. I can't remember the model name. So HDMI goes from the laptop to the AverMedia, and then from the AverMedia to the Windows laptop with Linux, or sorry, over USB. That's what I meant to say. And then I have Streamlabs OBS pick that up and then do the additional processing that it does. The reason I opted to do that was I had the hardware anyway, in terms of, originally I was looking to do game streaming. But since I had the hardware and with the separation, then I just decided to set it up the way I just described. I was looking at I originally was looking at doing all this inside of Linux inside of a VM on Windows. VMware kind of got a little hokey, and I'm not entirely sure. I've never had good experience with VMware on laptops. I don't know what it is. It works for a while and then eventually starts to degrade, and then Windows starts to get unhappy. So I opted to instead just get a dedicated Linux machine, and then just take VMware off of Windows altogether. And I think it's paying off. the way I've done it is by no means cheap. I will be the first to admit that, and it's probably not ideal. Um, I think depending on what since you are looking at getting started with your own stream, work with what you've got if you can get away with it. Um, buy as minimal as possible. Just get going. That was always the hardest thing for me. In fact, actually, this stream right here is actually my first time getting off of, or at having. I had a huge break between work, a few things going on with work. Got sick shortly afterward, and just, life coming up. This is actually my first stream since that multi-month break. And but yeah, just if you can get started with the minimal amount, you'll be good to go. But if you can get past that hurdle, you'll be good. It'll just rock slide from there, honestly. Especially since what I've decided to do that helps with that is, as I mentioned before, I'm just doing my thing. And then I just decided to add in a public interface for this whole thing. So I'm just doing my thing, and it helps to think like that. All right. So let's see. Let's poke at this Jinja. So Ansible uses Jinja templating for J2. Let's see. I'm trying to remember the Jinja syntax. I suspect they're not gonna tell me. I'm gonna have to look that up. Jinja 2. Let's see. Oh, let me turn off this. I turned the preview back on, and now it's distracting me in the corner of my eye. All right, Jinja 2 templating. Here it is. Yep, it's the curly brace %. That's what it was. All right. So I think %. Let's close it off, get it done and over with. And then this will be just call it, the variable name will just be bind address. I'll leave these for now. That's something that I'll add customization for later. And then let's put in, I just remembered something. I should write the test for this first. Def test OpenStack SQL config file. We will assert that I believe it's host.file. I'm gonna have to check that again. Host.file. Yes, .exists. So there, .exists. And let's put in that path. That path is going to be this guy. The first test is just to verify that this path or this file exists. And if we run this now, it will obviously fail. Because I have the instance still running, I can do the verify. Now it has 2 items because of the new test method. And it will fail there. Boom. All right. Test works. Now let's get the test to pass. Name, setup, OpenStack, SQL. Well, let's just do configure OpenStack SQL. I don't want you to. Well, no, I don't want you to help us CMF files. Away. All right, configure OpenStack SQL, and we'll look at back. So one thing I always find to be the thing I do the most is constantly looking at documentation, which is not a bad thing, but it does get a little harder to track sometimes. So by all means, if I'm going too quickly, just give a shout and I'll try to slow myself down a bit. The whole point is I want to make sure that not only are you able to keep track, but you're able to look and see what I'm doing, to ask questions or make comments if I'm about to do something stupid, which does happen. I am by no means perfect. All right, so we want the template. Let's do this. I'm going to use these two halves so I can see and reference quickly. Over. All right, so we want to use the template module. Oh, and this will probably be a become because the directory that it's going to be putting the file in is owned by root, and therefore does not have, since it's going to be coming in as a non-root user, it needs to be able to elevate itself. Because of what Molecule is using, it's always because it's using Vagrant, the user is always going to be run as Vagrant. But Vagrant should have passwordless elevation privileges. All right, so source is, I believe, templates, OpenStack.cnf.j2, and the destination is at, let's copy the so I'll be streaming until probably about just one more hour. So the schedule that I've set up for myself, which I just realized I should probably update my Twitch to show accordingly, if it's not already there. I'm going to be streaming Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Mountain Time. I believe for at least for I've got the Streamlabs countdown for when it starts, but it doesn't really show when it ends. But yes, I'll be streaming for about one more hour since it's about 9 o'clock here, and then I'll call it for the night, and then unless something comes up, which it shouldn't, I'll be back on again Thursday at 7 p.m. Mountain. Let's see, destination. Let's just copy this. Go ahead and copy Copy this path there. And we'll probably need the owner and group. Does this tell me what those need to be? It does not. Thanks, OpenStack. Not quite what I needed. We can actually take a good guess. Let's take a look at Molecule login, and let's do an ls-l on Etsy. Ooh, what is this? Where's my directory? Am I looking at the wrong place? Nope. Yep, I'm in the wrong place. Silly. my.cnf.d. Alright, so it's all owned by root. Root. Simple permissions. Oop, I didn't want that. Owner, root, group, root. Awesome, I appreciate it. Have a good one, Nappy Head Sloth, and I'll hope to catch you next stream. Have a good night, and good luck on your personal projects. All right, owner group. Owner group and mode. Right. Mode. Equal, comma, owner. or other equals. For W R. I see no reason to change those permissions. Let's just keep it the same. Don't break what ain't broke, or don't fix what ain't broke. That's it. All right. Mode. Anything else that I need? I think that should be good. Okay. Let's go ahead and give that a shot. Oh. Well, the file will get there, but it won't be right. Let's test to make sure that the file will indeed get there, which it should. Go ahead and converge. Womp womp. Hey, this is why we test. Oh, it's just saying that the tag is not known. Okay. Let me verify. You know what? Instead of doing this the hard way, I'm gonna cheat a little. Let's look and see what other people are doing. Just so that I get an idea. There's no sense reinventing the wheel, but let's make it a learning experience while we do it. All right, SQL. I don't want Oracle. No Oracle, go away. Let's just do this. Here. WordPress, MariaDB. GitHub repo. That's not gonna help. It's not setting up a file. Look at OpenStack. Let's see what we got. OpenStack repositories, certificate, launch. That's just OpenStack resources. This Keystone. Let's take a look at this. GitHub repo. Templates. Aha! You can look at the syntax. Oh, I see. All right. Yep. All right. Let's do this. I want to see. I want to see what how he's setting those variables in Ansible. So he's got item.name, item.name. Oh, what's this? OpenStack Keystone protocol. Nice. Just search this. Beat this. Maybe not. Configuration. Nope. Oh wait, here we go. Yeah, OpenStack Keystone verbose. All right, so yeah, he's setting the value. What value am I going to set? All right, let's see. Actually, I'm curious. I want to make sure it's not a dash versus underscore thing. It is not. Okay, unknown tag, that makes sense. It's more of a this variable doesn't exist. Is fine. Variable does not exist. So that should be so what I'm gonna want is actually a let's set up a default. We'll set up a default saying that the bind, well, two things. One is I need the bind address. I'll need that. But the second thing is brain fart. I need the interface. I need to know what the interface is in order to pull its address. So or not. Hold on. How do I do this? You know what? I'll just ask for the address. If I ask for just the address, the expectation is that they can figure out how they want to pass the address to me, whether they get it from a specific interface or however else they want to get that address. How did I delete the whole thing? This equal bind address. This will default it to the interface or to the ETH0 interface. How did I do that? Yes. That's cool. Let's just grep this whole thing. Whole thing. We're grepping for 0. Bev keeps getting pulled in. There's ignore. No, ignore directories. How do I ignore directories? Might be in my history. Oh. Rep. There it is. Exclude dir. Rep -r dash exclude dir equals then we'll search for 0 here. There it is. And this is what I'm looking for. Host.interface ETH0 address. We'll assume very may not be safe to assume that the default interface is going to be ETH0, because if it's new enough, it's going to be different. You know what? That's going to have to deal. The expectation is that they should be feeding in their own address anyway. Over here, address. That's not going to work. That's a test. That's not Ansible. Resolve net adapter. These are all tests. I want tests. That's different. That's different libraries, different language. You know what? Let me look at this. Code automated bits.corp. Look at the tasks. Just prepare Red Hat. Vagrant net. Looking for Ansible's way of pulling the IP address of the defined interface, which I'm assuming by default will be ETH0. I don't see that. I do that. Set up repositories, set up name servers, solve net adapter. Yeah, I don't think I'm doing that. I had something else that was doing this. I think I did, and I no longer have it because I didn't need it. Oh, lovely. All right, let's look at. Let us look at. Let's trust the old Google. Great googly moogly. Let's make sure. Just want to make sure that they're not doing it here. Nope, doesn't look. Full it. Let me search stuff with that. Give me back my grab. Nope. There. There it is. Ansible default IPv4 address. So I'll just pull default. Place it under. SQL bind address. Say. Okay. Try it again. Failed to combine variables. Expected dictionary, but got expected dictionaries, but got a dictionary. What? What you talking about? Oh, I'm being silly. It's right in front of my nose. Look at that. What'd that do? That do it? Not quite. That do no goo. Oh. I'm still doing it wrong. I must be getting tired. Damn. Ah. Uh-huh. Nope. I take it back. I eat. Counted unknown tag SQL bind. I mean unknown. Oh wait. I not need percentages? Getting confused with other things. Huh. Oh, that's right. The percentages are for more functions, not. Of course. I was silly. Such a silly Billy. D and OpenStack.cnf is there. And if we cat it, there we go. That is the format I was expecting here. Nice. That did it. So if we do a verify, this should say success. Does. It says success. All right. Now we just have one final thing. That's to enable and start the service. Well, two final things. Ensure that the service is enabled and started, and then go through a secure installation. This is probably going to become the bane of my existence for this project. That's not the, well, I will have to leverage what other people have done, properly handle that, because I do know that there is MariaDB roles out there that handle that. So first, as we've always done, write our test. Def test and stack. You know what? Def test equal service status. Oh. Started and enabled. Assert. There'll be two asserts. Assert host.service MariaDB is started. Assert host.service MariaDB is enabled. And if that turns out, if I actually remembered that, that'll be a miracle. And a sign that I've been doing this too much. Oop, yep, it's wrong. All right, well, let's fix it. So service is running. Is running. Well, you better go catch it. Har, har, har. Yes, it failed. It's not something you hear often. All right, pull this back over. Now, let's write the Ansible. That fixes it. Start and enable MariaDB service. Service is the module. The name is MariaDB. The state is started. Enabled is true. Become true. And let's try that. Purge. Start, enable, you can do it. Yay! All right. Verify. Pass. Pass. Yes. Success. We did it. I've done it. All right. Now for the tricksy part. Depending on how well this goes, we might be able to wrap up on a finished module. MySQL secure installation. Let's look and see what people have done for that. The tricky part is going to be making it idempotent. DB. Okay. GitHub asks why you. Okay, so this is the main one. Does the install, does the config, root password, databases, users. Okay. Let's look at config. Install server config file, network config, custom config, swappiness. Ensure the service is started. Databases, remove the test. Oh, I know. Okay. That might be how they're doing it. Rather than trying to run the script itself, they're just manually doing what the script should be doing for you. Which, if we look and see, set a password for root accounts. Remove, okay. This is literally everything it does. I believe he's taking care of that as part of the, so let's check install, make sure there's nothing there. Okay, simple install, nothing special. Config installs the config files. I don't need a network config file and some other custom config file. I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is. And he ensures the service is started. Okay. After config, he looks at root password and then databases. The root password is command. Okay. He checks to see if the root password is set. And then if it failed, these will not run. But it also won't fail the entire thing. Set MariaDB root password for the first time. Excuse me, which is whatever you have it set to. That's the other thing, is I need to set as a default the root password, which will just be password. Ideally, they should be overriding that. They really should be overriding it. So this looks good. Oh, and they're using the MySQL user module, which I'm probably gonna have to pip install, which is fine. So dude. What am I thinking? I am thinking that I like what I see here. Was that and that here? I need this. I don't need. All right, we will do. Want to break this out, or do I want to keep it as a main? I probably want to break this out. Oh hum. All right. Root. Yeah. And actually, let's do a file here. Install configure equal. Then we will take these. Take these. Put them here. Install and figure equal for OpenStack. Okay, and then I will actually same include thing that he's doing, which is a dash include tasks. Install configure SQL dot. Do the same thing. Include tasks. Root password dot YAML. Include tasks. Oh, let's see. Remove default keys YAML. Let that out because it's not there yet. And include tasks users. Let's do fake users. For to be a bit more verbal. Let that out because it's not there yet. All right, so we got that. Root password dash task again. There. I like a lot of what he did here, but I don't use the tags. This is all private stuff anyway. Don't do a tag. Do a tag. Default. That bam bam. Sense. All right. After root password does databases, really just I don't like what he's doing here. So he's I don't know what this is. It's script. I don't need that. Okay. So remove test database I need. Let's put that in. Oh, there it is. Bam. Bam. Move default YAML. do, 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 do. Yeah. All right. Do. Name test, login user root, blah blah blah. Is that really all that happens? And then you got the create user defined databases, which I would probably do. In the bigger picture, they'll probably be handled because I do need to create OpenStack databases. And instructions don't have that yet. So they'll be added a bit later. That's when I'll look at using the MySQL. I don't know what this is. I don't think I need it. I don't know what this is either. Yeah. I'll just leave it at that. Users, here we go. Remove anonymous user. That needs to go. And as I'm doing this, I'm realizing I'm not doing the very thing I want to make sure I'm doing, which is doing tests with all of this. Okay. Write them all as soon as I get this. Need tags. Okay. And I need that space, otherwise molecule's gonna, or the linter is gonna complain, not molecule. All right. So, since we've jumped ahead so far, let's catch up with our tests. So we know that PDB install root password. That's going to be the thing. How do we test the root password? Actually, I think all we're doing is just verifying that root. So we just need to verify that it's going to complain about this to me later, and I just caught it. So def test root equal root password set, and we're going to need to create our way of testing for that. First, let's do this. Let's comment all these out. And we'll enable them one at a time as soon as we have our test written. Excuse me. Verify, converge. Let's log in. Excuse me. The command is running. Verify. I just want to see what the output of that is. Bam. What? Oh, is that what it is? If it returns. Oh, I see. If it returns successful, the password's not checked. If it returns false, that means that the password wasn't set and therefore wasn't stopping. Okay, that makes sense. So, the way we can check this is we need to tell our test to run that, verify that it comes back 0. How do we run a command with our test infrastructure? Just check post.tech. But you know what? I've done this before. Let's this. check. Oop. Here it is. Let's take a look at there. What did I do? Oh, I see. I was getting the word count. This is checking the actual output. I want to check the return code instead. There it is. If I do host.run and then check the command RC, let's pull this again and reference this. All right, so command equals host.run. Oop, that's, we want to run this command. There we go. And then we need to assert host, actually assert not and.rc. Well, we want to assert that command.rc is not equal to 0. Let's verify. Oop. Verify. Make sure that we are getting proper Python syntax. Exit status 0. Assert 0 is not equal to 0. All right. Failed assertion error. Okay. And if we were to enable this, assuming all is well, set the password, and then when the verify runs, will be correct. So, converge. Wow. MySQL Python module is required. Imagine that. All right, I just want to make sure I'm in the proper environment. Okay. Pip install SQL Python. No module named config parser. Shouldn't it be installing prerequisites? Module not found. Why is module not found? First off, let's get this requirements. There. in the future, if I ever have to, so the virtual environment will not be tracked by Git. And then if I ever have to reclone or someone else has to use it, they will be able to just simply recreate the virtual environment. Easy peasy. So, why is this no goo? Let me verify something. MySQL dash Python 3. Yeah. So what happens if I instead do MySQL clip install? Make sure I'm not going down the wrong rabbit hole. So, Ansible, MySQL, Python. Weird. Installed it. Wait. Oh, I'm being silly. The MySQL software has, or the, is that right? The Python MySQL needs to be on the client. Needs to be on the client. I'm being silly. Alright, so install required software blarg. That doesn't make sense. Let's dash dish. Let's do that. So we will say as far install configure SQL. Those need to be installed. Thought of something. There's no point doing pip if the Python 3 MySQL. Well, that's fun too. CentOS Python 3 client. So does Python not have a yum installed by nothing? I need to install that. Don't need. All right, let's try this again. First off, this is Urge. Search SQL. What I Google dash. Apparently it's a little picky. Let's try that. Wait a minute. User, hold on. Did this was set MariaDB password. No, it's right here. Unable to connect to database. Check the login user and log. Correct. Well, ho hum, ho hum. It hasn't been set yet. Something's wrong. Tasks. Root password. And let's check something else. Someone else should be doing something similar to set the password to install. Set MySQL root. Oh, I don't like that. It's good enough, but like it. Install. Login password. I see. Wait. What? Why would this work? Ansible. Bam. Here's an example for setting root. Oh. Check and let's give that. True. There we go. That did it. Cool. Oh, verify. Yes. With that, the root password works as intended. And we can verify. Normally, we could just trust Ansible to do this. Excuse me, and we don't have to actually test for it, but that should work. Oh, works. Awesome. All right, we got about 8 minutes left. Let's see if we can in the check for default DPS. This one. Remove the test database. I did. Well, actually, what was? I'm doing this on the wrong thing. Oh, I see. If I just do dash dash password, I can set it. Actually, can I still do that with dash P? I can, just no space. Okay. Ansible dash u root dash P password. Oh. Oh. Real quick, there's probably nothing here for yell command. All right. So it is show databases, but I need the syntax for passing a command. MySQL databases. Dash E show databases. Good. Yeah, that should work. Databases. All right. SQL test database. like to find is a one-line check if the database exists, something I can run within test infra. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to be that easy. So I think for now, guys, I will call it a night. Appreciate you for tuning in and checking me out. Feel free to come back again on Thursday. Start my stream from 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. Mountain Time. Check me out on LinkedIn, Twitter. I've got my blog, and check my YouTube channel where I archive these broadcasts or the live streams. They should be down below. And good luck on all of your personal projects. Hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know if there's comments, suggestions, anything. And hope you all have a wonderful night. I'll talk to you later.